and welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalia, the friendly creator behind Akai Hana Art. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can create realistic looking pastel paintings with my new Pastel Pro Pack for Procreate. These are 12 brushes for painting, shading, smudging, and texturing that you can create these realistic looking paintings. And if you are in for the ride, let's get started. Okay, this is the illustration that we're going to be painting today. This is just a rough sketch. But before we dive into the painting part of the video, let me show you the brush pack that we're going to be using today. These are, as I told you, 12 different brushes, and from the down to the top, we have 8 different painting textures. We have pencil pastels, dry pastels, oil pastels, soft pastels, different textures that you can see me here showing you. But I also like to add to my packs, to my painting packs, brushes that you can use with the different tools that Procreate has to offer. For example, smudging brushes and shading brushes and brushes that you can erase with, or depending on the medium that we're going to be working. But for me, for the pastel brush pack, smudging is one of the most important tools, and you can blend 2 colors with these smudging tools. That is the little hand with the little finger that you have, that you see next to the brush. You can soften a color, adding an extra texture, or blending 2 colors, as I told you. So this pack is already available on my Etsy shop, so I will leave the link in the description down below for you to go and check it out. But without further ado, let's get started with the painting process, shall we? Okay, so this is the illustration that I just showed you, and I down the opacity of the layer of the illustration, and I'm going to be painting underneath that, the sketch layer. So when I'm painting, I'm going to be able to see the illustration. I'm going to be adding the color background that is going to be a very dark color, because the colors that I'm going to use for the illustration are very bright. I also want to add a halo of light that is going to be behind the ghost and behind also the stone, that are a source of light that, like unknown, like probably are the ghosts who are adding that light source. So for that, I'm going to be using the pan brush pastel, the pan pastel brush. That is a very large brush, and I'm going to be setting the layer into color dodge, or add, like for the layer to look like a light. Okay, I also like to erase with the same brush that I'm painting, just because you can erase with the same amount of texture that you are painting. Okay, here is I'm using the smudge tool to soften a little bit more the edges of the light, just because I want the light to be very concentrated in the middle, but very diffuse on the edges. I could do that with the blur, with the Gaussian blur, and I'm not very happy, but I'm going to go back to it afterwards, so I'm not going to bother doing that right now. Okay, here I am blocking all the images. I'm going to be painting each single shape, like for example the stone, and then the ghosts, and then the branches. Every single item in the illustration, I'm going to be blocking it and painting it with a soft brush. Not from this pack. I'm going to be painting it with watercolor brushes. You can use the one that comes with Procreate. I'm using the one I made for myself just because I have it at hand, but you can use any. Why I do that? Because when you're painting with pastel brushes, the pastel brushes have a lot of texture, which means that between inside the painting part you can see holes and you can see what's behind that illustration. So I'm painting the illustration with a soft looking brush like this, just to add an extra color to the background. I don't know if you understand what I just say, but when I start painting with the pastel brushes, you can see that this makes a lot of difference when you are adding this paint, like these blocks of color behind the pastel paintings. You can block the shapes with selection tool, and you just paint away with the painting brush that you just choose. Here I'm adding the pastel painting, and you have to remind to paint on top of the block layer. As you can see, you can see from here the texture that you add when you are painting with the pastels. And the blocks that you just painted are very helpful because you can see white, even if it's a soft white, you can see it in the background. For this illustration, I'm using the hard pastel. This is one of my favorite brushes in this pack, but you can choose the brush that you like and paint with it. This is just a matter of texture, like the thing that you like, the texture that you like. And I really enjoy when you can see the rough edges when you're painting, so have that in mind. I have to remind you to paint the different parts of the illustration in a different layer, just because if you exceed one of the parts that you're painting, you can erase. But if you are the type of person that like to paint everything in a single layer, it's possible to just be very careful and manage the size of the brushes very, very carefully. I don't know about you, but I really, really enjoy painting with pastels. I think it's one of the most exciting textures to paint with, just because it looks very, very realistic. Every single color that you have seen me painting, I'm doing it in a fast pace, just because if I am doing it in real time, this painting would be 2 or 3 hours long. So that's why I use just a little bits and pieces of the process just to show you how I do it. every single color is going to be in a different layer. For example, the pink is going to be in a different layer, the blues are going to be in a different layer, the stone is in a different layer, the purples, the goats are in a different layer, just because if you want to change the color or resize it. For example, when I was painting, I realized that the mouth was a little bit, like move, like more down from one side than from the other. So I changed that in the illustration, and I was able to change the painting also with the layer that you paint the mouth in. Okay, now I'm going to be in a different layer. I'm going to be adding the colors depending, like the shades and the lights, depending on how the source of light that is behind the stone, it's affecting the items of the painting. So I'm going to be choosing the pink, and I'm going to be adding this with extra texture in the stone and in the branches. One of the cool things of painting with pastels, and this is just a particular taste of mine, it's not adding lines, not having line work in all the illustrations, just adding the bare minimum to distinguish what is that you're looking. For example, I added with the pastel pencil, I added this line work, but it's not in the entire illustration. It's just in the parts that you want to see the difference between. For example, in the stone, and the hands of the goats, and the parts where the light hits harder, for example, the corners of the mouth and the edges of the eyes. So you could see what are the eyes of the stone. And also, as I told you, I like to add the color that you see the light, like the light is pink, so I like to add pink to the rest of the illustration. Even though the branches are blue, I like to add pink, just because that light is affecting those branches. I also add pink to the stone, in the parts of where the light is hitting. And I did that with the texturing brushes and the shading brushes. And the lines with the pastel pencils. I also added extra darkness to the inside parts of the stone, just to give it that sensation that it's hollow, like inside the stone there's nothing. And with the pastel pencil, I added the lines of the branches. Because you want that to have you want that to be distinguished from the rest of the illustration, like to be able to see the different branches. Now I'm adding the shading, like the parts where the light doesn't hit. And I like to shade my illustrations with the texture brushes. And this is just a particular taste of mine because it gives an extra texture to the shading and differentiate from the light source. So the shadings I added in a different layer on top, and I set the layer in multiply. And for the light, like I'm doing here, I added another layer with set up in color dodge or add, and I used the smudging texture to diffuse that light a little bit more. And these little extra details, I add them with the pastel pencil. So finally, remember that this product is already available on my Etsy shop, and the link is in the description down below if you want to go and check it out. I really enjoy this painting. I hope you did too. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and spread the love by sharing to the people that you think might be interested in this type of topics. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.